Good morning, Michael.
Morning. How are we?
All right. How are you?
I'm excited about the Friday. It is a beautiful day in Louisville, Kentucky, and it is Derby season, and can't get much better than that.
That's right. It's Derby season. Okay, Michael, you had to explain to people what Derby season is when you live in Louisville, Kentucky, because people just think of Derby the race, but it's a whole season. So you got to tell us a little bit about what happens.
Yeah, Louisville loves its Derby. So it's all about this 2 weeks straight of Derby activities that are really traditional. So people remember the steamboat race back when they were 5, or they went to the balloon globe when they were in high school or whatever. So there's things that happen every year. And so the longer you're here, the more you look forward to whatever activity it is. And it's a lot going on. So last night we went to a balloon glow and a drone show at a place called the Chow Wagon, which is basically a big carnival on a Thursday night with children everywhere. And that's just a normal end of April in Louisville, Kentucky.
And just for people that are listening in, Michael actually lives in between downtown Louisville and Churchill Downs.
Yep.
So he's on the main thoroughfare, so it's crazy for him. Well, I'm glad you guys went to I heard the Balloon Glow was amazing. As you know, I have family there, and Thunder over Louisville was amazing. And then all this stuff is happening.
Yep.
So, well, awesome. Michael, we have been doing this show now for 2.5 years.
Crazy.
And it's been a blast. It's been fun. But to everyone out there, our next show will actually be our last show from Experience Friday Live. We're going to take a break, rebrand, bring it back, doing something a little different. But for all of our guests who have been on here, it's been amazing. We thank you so much. Truly excited for today's guest. And our next guest, which will be on May 10th, give you just a preview of that. Michael Kanatsky, hiring teams. What the hell are you doing? Right now, I don't know how many people are paying attention to what's happening out there, but hiring is just really weird. Michael and I have had several conversations about this and just in a weird space right now. So, But today, I'm even more excited. We have Pete Hunt. And Pete is the host of the Privileged Man podcast, where he speaks the unspeakable with world-class guests. And Michael, you and I love speaking the unspeakable. So he is also the founder of a personal and professional development platform, Monumental. And Monumental is a platform that empowers men to overcome their mental and emotional isolation, build deep connections, and create meaningful legacies. So Pete's journey reflects the ups and downs of the human experience, which we love to talk about. And Monumental is a manifestation of that journey and everything he has wished he had been able to access. So let's welcome to the stage Pete Hunt.
Good to see you guys. Good to be your penultimate guest. What an honor.
Yeah. It's 2.5 years of this. We're gonna do something different, but it's time to refresh and do something different, as you've had some experience doing in your life, Pete, as we have talked through a lot. Well, it's so awesome to have you here, brother. And I met Pete a couple years ago. Was part of his first groups of what he was doing. But Pete, you've kind of taken a little bit of a shift in what you were doing and with the group, but a powerful shift on the, let's just say that for what it is, a powerful shift. But we start every episode with the very same question. Why do you do what you do, and what keeps you doing it?
Well, I'll keep this short. I mean, essentially, I was a man, a boy, who was brought up with a privileged background. Not going to lie, had a great education, lovely family, beautiful upbringing. Was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 8 years old, and everything on the surface was great. I went into corporate life. I worked for some huge property consultancies, CBRE being one of them. It's probably known to your American listeners. And essentially, I went into corporate life, came to about 30, 32, and I just started to think. I just started to listen to myself going, what's this all about? Am I really on earth to do this job, to be in this place, to be acting and feeling the way that I was? And I won't brush over all of it, but I'll brush over most of it. But essentially, I was partying a lot. I wasn't really truly connected with my own being. And essentially where that got me to was moving different countries, running away from myself. And I ended up living in Bali. And essentially one day I just fell over. I was 32. I was thinking, is this it? I was financially well off. I was doing well. But I wasn't really asking and answering the inner question of why am I actually here? Why have I come to this earth? What am I here for? And therefore started a big journey, which went over a couple of years of personal development. I hadn't even heard those two words, personal development, in my life. I hadn't even associated the fact that I might be anxious, that I may be feeling slightly depressed from here and there. But I suddenly realized that actually I'd spent most of my life in a state of chronic anxiety, and most people would have no idea that was the case, no idea whatsoever. So what did I find out? I found out that group work and sitting in groups and sharing was a huge release to me, a huge release. But what I did was look around and see who I was sharing with, and essentially I thought, wow, wouldn't this be insane if we could get guys from a similar-ish background who were feeling okay to share, guys who are actually in the shadows of this conversation, in the shadows of this mental health, emotional health conversation. And so this is what I ended up doing. I started a podcast, which is called The Privileged Man, which is the ironic twist is, yeah, I'm privileged, but what I saw as real privilege, or what I learned to be real privilege, was mental and emotional well-being as opposed to material well-being. I don't think the two need to be mutually completely exclusive, but that's what happened. That's what happened to me. And to cut a long story short, because I'm sure you've got more questions, I found myself now running a community of men. I call it a personal development platform for men in their professional prime. I'm now beginning to work with corporates. I've had some exceptionally exciting phone calls over the last 2 months where corporates are now beginning to put men's mental health, as they call it, in one bank's words, the top of the agenda. So I feel as though it's good timing. There's lots of men out there who are needing support. I say support, not help, on purpose. And yeah, that's sort of where the journey's taking me.
Well, love it. And we can definitely dive in more here. But I want to give us a question or a stat to start with for us to begin to look around. And this is a stat that you gave to us, Pete, that said 85% of men that Monumental has polled do not have an online or physical community. Tell us a little bit about that. And I think, Michael and I can share some of our experience of where we felt in this space.
Well, isolation is the starting gun to all more dramatic mental health issues, right? So whilst men think that they can fix themselves by going more and more and more isolated, it's actually completely the opposite. We actually need to be sharing what's going on to solve our problems, right? A problem shared is a problem halved. But when you tell most men that, no, thanks very much. I don't want to be talking about that. I'd rather have a bourbon, or rather have, whatever it is. I'd rather watch porn. I'd rather, be going off and doing some drugs. I don't know how much I can talk about openly on this show, but essentially we're going to be, it's much more comfortable to be doing anything than talking about our emotions. And so men tend to isolate. And these statistics are now absolutely shocking. And again, they are from generations of how we're structuring society. We're not living in our hometowns anymore. We're not living where our families, where we were brought up. We're geographically very split. So now we're spending more time. The pandemic has taken this on steroids, really. We're now working at home. Yes, there are advantages to that, but yes, there are also massive disadvantages of that. I can tell you that I was working at home way before the pandemic. It does not help in terms of men's mental health, women's mental health. I can't speak for, but the data is showing it is making people more anxious, more depressed, and if we're gonna go right into it, the suicide rates show this as well. So look, dealing with isolation, taking people out of isolation and getting them into community will stop a plethora of mental health issues that are, unfortunately, the new silent pandemic that is rocking the Western world particularly.
All right, Michael, I'll let you jump in on this.
Well, I think an interesting starting point for me is, when we talk about experience and Experience Friday Live and Experience Matters and all of that, it's a really great reminder of employee experience at an office or in an organization. If you're not in the office, that is, it can't be separated from someone's personal life experience, right? So if you're going back to, you want to be a successful leader in whatever organization, you need to have a workforce that is ready to perform, to be able to meet your organizational goals, right? There's no way you can do everything right in your leadership in the office or in the organization, or when the people are on the clock, and if those folks are not in a good, healthy place in their personal lives, you just can't separate it, right? The especially men bring home their work with them into their personal lives, whatever it may be, and they bring their personal lives into work, like it or not, right? So I think it's just such a great reminder of that intricate nature of how all those work together. Can you speak to your experience? I mean, I would love to know. I mean, your goals in working with men in this space. I'm sure it's to make them healthier people, but to what end, and to what end, right? so they can be more successful in their roles, one of which is working, earning some, contributing to the world, and then also family and all those other things that are super important. But what's your experience around being better equipped to tackle the world, including showing up for an organization somewhere?
Yeah, I have this triangle, which is, which basically is the how, what, and the why. And the why is the bigger question that men have, which is what the hell am I doing here? Like, every man has that secretly deep down gnawing away at him. Like, what am I, why am I here? And I talk about that being legacy. Like, why are they actually here? Legacy doesn't mean, oh, we have to leave millions of dollars to my children. That's like, financial legacy. That's like, it's more like, why am I here? And then the what, if you like, if you take a triangle, why is at the top, the what's bottom right, and I have that as the purpose. The purpose is the way in which we're going to get to the why. So for me, my why is to make a difference. What am I doing is creating a community. Yeah. So that's my purpose. And then the how is on the other bottom left of the triangle. So you've got the how, the what, and the why. And the how is actually, for me, is connection, right? But everyone has something different, but this is what I instill in the guys in Monumental and the people that I generally speaking to, is without connection, you can't get to purpose. And without purpose, you can't get to legacy. So without connecting with people, speaking this out loud, whatever forum it's going to be, personally, as a man, I find it much easier to talk openly and honestly to a group of men. There's just some raw amount of honesty that comes through when we're sitting with it in a men's group. That's not just me. That's a lot of men who have that experience of talking to it as well. But that's my how. I connect, and then the purpose comes through. How are you supposed to find out what your purpose is if you can't even talk about it? And then people talk about legacy. Of course it feels too lofty. Of course it feels too big and like, oh, I don't want to go there if people don't want to talk about their purpose. Because if you can't talk about your purpose, the three things don't interact. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And I think it's just super interesting of, this is not just you creating a startup because you think it's cool. This is like, the data shows this is a problem. It's shown it's a problem for, decades. It's gotten worse with the catalysts over the past few years, right? Political division, COVID, working from home, all those separators, right? So, what is your advice if you are technology? Absolutely. Social media. If I am someone sitting at home right now listening and I'm like, this is the nail on the head for me. Like, what is your advice for first steps? Like, what do you say, let's go do?
Find some courage. Find the courage, like find your courage muscle. It's like, it gives me goosebumps just even like saying that out loud. It's just like, it's so easy for me to say that out loud, but I knew when I was struggling, like, okay, that's all well and good, but I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm in such a shame spiral. I feel so much shame about the way that I feel because, quite honestly, on the surface, everything's fine. I've got it financially, I'm good. I've got a great looking wife. I've got kids, they're at school. This is, the perfect picture, but underneath it, there's this gnawing question of why am I actually here? And so it's finding the courage to actually say, and I've got a podcast guest who said, don't treat your wife as a therapist. So like, don't blame it. Don't put it all on your inner circle. Go and find people outside of your inner circle, forums. For me, men's groups work, right? For me and for many of the men that I speak to. But if you're right at the beginning of this journey, go and talk to a therapist. go and find someone that you can at least start to have this conversation with, because as soon as you actually feel the release of sharing, the problem halved is a problem excuse me, a problem shared is a problem halved. And with that feeling, you just want more of it and more of it and more. It's like an onion. The layers just start to come off. You may feel super crusty, like an old onion, right? And that's actually probably how you feel. But that onion gets renewed and more juicy every time you peel down that onion. And that's what therapy is. That's what being part of community is. It's the juice of life. If we're pushing that to one side, we're not really living life to the full. And what chance do we have of creating a legacy and really living in our purpose if we can't actually get to the point of just connecting with another human on an honest, truthful level?
Well, and with the onion metaphor, it stands up on so many levels, right? There's so many narratives and messages that all of us, no matter what gender or whether we are non-binary, whoever we are, there are messages that have been given to us that we have received over all of our years, right? And those are personal and professional, of why I can't do something or why I shouldn't do something, or it limits our thinking. And the bigger we get to our problems, the deeper the hole gets that we're digging for ourselves. Our brains just get limited. So I love peeling all that back and peeling back all those messages that are just problem. They're problematic. They're not right. We make up stuff, right?
Well, we make up stuff. We act on the beliefs and the indoctrinations and the lessons that have been passed to us. So by the ages of around this group, 40s coming into our 50s, we've got 40 years of messages coming into here. And now, as I said, with these phones, you've got it coming in 24/7. Like, this is the way you should be. This is what you should be doing, rather than in this. It's a lot of the should game. I should be here. I should be doing this, rather than like letting all of that going inside, really actually feeling who, and asking those questions. Why am I here? Who am I really? And then acting on them.
I think, something that's powerful, and I actually wrote it down here because, Michael and I have talked a lot in the work that we do around your empathy muscle, right? Like, you can actually learn empathy. I've been doing a series on LinkedIn right now on empathy workouts, but I found it like something just resonated when you said, find your courage muscle, right? Like, there's something powerful to taking that step of courage as a man. Because I do think we feel a little bit ashamed when we say we need help, or we want help, or we don't have the answer. It's become so more prevalent to me that more and more men are looking for this safe place to have these conversations, and having to get that courage muscle going. So I just thought that was a really powerful statement, Pete. And
I would assume that any gender listening, this is not just about men, right? This is about anybody who is facing life, and perhaps genders do approach things differently if you look at gender studies, right? But this is not just men, right? This is humans that need this connection and need to find ways to connect in whatever way is best for them. But like you said, Pete, like, the first step is to do something, right? Just do something. Start talking.
Take action. Right.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins style, massive action.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we keep these shows at 30 minutes, Pete. I want to. So what's next for Monumental? What's next for you in taking this movement? As I've watched it grow over 2 years and pivot, and so excited to see what you've done with it. What's next?
That's a really good question. Actually been writing my business plan this morning, so fresh off the PowerPoint. Yeah, look, it's really exciting. We are creating geographical hubs. So we've got a UK hub. I'm planning on bringing it to the US over the next year. My wife is American, so that's a little easier than most UK people find cracking into America. But anyone, the right person in the right country, who wants to basically be a part of this movement, I'm very open to not so much franchising, but partnering with Monumental in different groups. So in America, that that may even be state-wise. Why? Because there's a consistent online community that meets every week with Monumental. That's how it works. But also, having just done a retreat down here in the Isle of Wight for 12 men this past weekend, like I just don't underestimate how powerful physical meetups are. So that's the basic model for community. I've got a couple of guys coming in to work with me on that, and then I'm taking, I guess, my speaking, my podcast to the next level. I'm now going to be working with some of the bigger companies in the UK, actually globally. And as I said really early on in the show, they're starting to take men's mental and emotional well-being seriously, because Michael, as you said, like, it affects the bottom line, affects the top line. This really, really matters. Personal development matters. We cannot differentiate them. Phones technology means that we're working or on call 24/7. So how are we actually going to sort of redefine that attitude towards our personal development? And that's where I want to be at the forefront of, and working with these companies to make sure that men are included in this conversation. I mean, it's rightfully so, as you say, Michael, minority groups, and there's diversity, and there's equity and inclusion, of course. But we've got to bring, for that to work, we've got to bring the traditional leaders into the conversation as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Love it. Awesome, man. So if people want to get a hold of you, where do they reach out to you, Pete, and learn more about Monumental and the stuff you're doing?
Sure. Well, monumental.global is the website. On now I have a scorecard if you want to go and have a crack at your wheel of life. And my podcast is the Privileged Man Podcast, and that's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. So yeah, thank you very much for having me, Shawn.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing a conversation that is so dear to my heart, to Michael's heart, to life. And please let us know how we can support you.
Thanks, man.
If you'll hang out for just a couple minutes, we'll close up the show, and then we'll come say goodbye to you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right. Awesome. All right, Michael, what derby plans do you have for the weekend?
Well, the marathon and mini marathon come by our house in the morning, and then the balloons will be up in the air. And then tomorrow evening is another drone show, and tonight we're going to the baseball game, which is right where everything's happening too. So,
well, look at that. And you're running that marathon too this weekend?
I am not. I might go out walking about that time, but we'll see. Awesome.
Well, buddy, have a great weekend, and enjoy it. Enjoy the weather. And again, Friday, May 10th, Michael Kanatsky, hiring teams. What the hell are you doing? This is a whole nother, I think, epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, happening right now in the workforce. And we hope everyone can join us for that, as that will be our last show of Experience Friday Live. So until then, we will see you guys. Everyone have an amazing weekend. And Michael, we will talk later.
Peace.